Oh, Vikings, let's win this game.
The Minnesota Vikings just received some good news, some concerning news, and a few developments that could spark major debate across Vikings Nation. Kevin O'Connell is entering a very different reality after a front office announcement. Christian Darrisaw is finally speaking positively about his health. Jordan Addison is watching a quarterback battle unfold right in front of him. And according to people around the league, the race between J.J. McCarthy and Kyler Murray may not be trending the way many fans expected. Let's talk about it. One of the biggest questions surrounding this franchise wasn't about a player at all. It was about who would ultimately hold the power when difficult football decisions had to be made. And that matters, because power in an NFL building is never just about titles. For years, Minnesota has operated under a structure that tried to balance coaching influence, roster construction, and salary cap management. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it created friction. And now we're entering another chapter. During the introduction of new general manager Teasley, owner Mark Wilf made something crystal clear. The final say on the 53-man roster belongs to the general manager, not the head coach, not a committee, not a collaborative vote, the general manager. That statement immediately changed the conversation surrounding Kevin O'Connell. Over the past several years, O'Connell's voice carried tremendous weight inside the building. Many fans viewed him as the central figure guiding the franchise. Now, according to Wilf, the structure has officially shifted. Noah Teasley is in charge of roster decisions. Does that mean O'Connell suddenly becomes irrelevant? Absolutely not. Far from it. Teasley himself has emphasized collaboration and the importance of leaning on O'Connell's football expertise. Rob Brzezinski remains one of the most respected executives in the organization as well. But as Purple Insider's Matthew Collar pointed out, there is now a natural tension built into the system. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Healthy organizations often have checks and balances. The challenge is trust. Can O'Connell fully trust Teasley when difficult personnel decisions arise? Can Teasley maintain authority while still valuing the coaching staff's perspective? Because eventually, they will disagree on someone. Vikings fans know this franchise has experienced power struggles before. History has shown that when a head coach and general manager are aligned, great things can happen. When they aren't, cracks begin to form. What's even more interesting is that Teasley doesn't carry the same loyalty to O'Connell that previous leadership did. That's simply reality in the NFL. New general managers evaluate everything, every player, every coach, every process. O'Connell remains highly respected, but his playoff resume is still a talking point. 2 playoff appearances without a postseason victory continues to hover over the conversation. Nobody is suggesting his seat is hot today, but if Minnesota fails to reach expectations this season, questions could emerge much faster than many fans expect. For now, everybody is smiling. Everybody is saying the right things. But the true test begins when adversity arrives, and that's when this new partnership will reveal its real strength. Meanwhile, there was finally some encouraging news involving one of the most important players on the entire roster. And honestly, this update might be one of the most underrated developments of the offseason because it affects almost everything the offense wants to become. Over the last 2 years, Vikings fans have held their breath every time injuries started piling up along the offensive line. It felt like the group could never stay healthy long enough to establish continuity. One name in particular became central to those concerns: Christian Darrisaw. When he's healthy, he's one of the premier left tackles in football. The problem has been availability. Since suffering serious knee injuries, Darrisaw has missed a significant amount of time, and every absence was felt across the offense. That's why his latest comments carried so much weight. According to Darrisaw, this is the best his knee has felt in 2 years. Full motion, no major limitations, confidence returning. Those are words Vikings fans have been waiting to hear. Kevin O'Connell reinforced the optimism, explaining that the team is being smart while still integrating Darrisaw fully into the offensive line's development process. And let's be honest, a healthy Darrisaw changes the way this offense can breathe. Protection improves, the running game becomes more reliable, the entire unit gains stability, and whoever wins that quarterback job, that left side, has to feel like home. At just 27 years old, he's still in the prime of his career. If he can finally put the injury concerns behind him, Minnesota gets back one of its true foundational players. But while one veteran appears to be moving toward clarity, another remains surrounded by uncertainty. Harrison Smith still hasn't made a final decision regarding retirement. Think about that for a moment. One of the greatest Vikings defenders of his generation is still weighing his future. O'Connell joked that he couldn't even convince Smith to play golf recently, but underneath the humor is genuine uncertainty. Nobody seems to know exactly what comes next. Maybe Smith returns. Maybe he waits until later in the season to evaluate the roster. Maybe he decides the time has come to step away. Whatever happens, his presence still matters. This isn't just another veteran. This is Harrison Smith, a player who has defined an era of Vikings football. And until that decision arrives, a small piece of the future remains unresolved. The next storyline centers around a player who could be in line for one of the most important seasons of his career. Not because he's fighting for a roster spot, not because he's dealing with injuries, but because expectations are starting to rise again, and timing matters in this league. Jordan Addison entered the league with tremendous promise and immediately flashed the talent that made him a first-round selection. Yet last season felt a little uneven at times. The production was solid, but everyone knows there's another level he can reach. Now he's entering a critical stretch as conversations about his long-term future gradually begin to emerge. What's fascinating is how Addison has handled the quarterback situation. When asked about the competition, he didn't seem interested in choosing sides. Instead, he focused on helping Kyler Murray learn the offense while continuing to build chemistry with everyone in the quarterback room. That's probably the smartest approach. After all, the Vikings are loaded with receiving talent. Justin Jefferson commands attention. Jawan Jennings adds another weapon. Addison remains a major piece of the puzzle. Whoever wins the quarterback battle will have plenty of firepower available. But firepower only matters if the timing is right. Addison's comments also reveal something about the locker room atmosphere. There doesn't appear to be division. There doesn't appear to be factions forming around different quarterbacks. The focus remains on improvement. That's important because quarterback competitions can sometimes create awkward dynamics even when nobody wants to admit it. Instead, players seem invested in helping both signal callers succeed. And speaking of quarterbacks, there have been some encouraging reports surrounding J. McCarthy's development. According to Alec Lewis, McCarthy's mechanics have looked smoother this offseason. His ball placement appears improved. The emphasis on layering throws and varying velocity has reportedly shown progress. Those details may sound minor, but quarterbacks are often defined by those subtle improvements. A little more touch, a cleaner release, one better decision under pressure. That can change a drive. McCarthy doesn't need to become perfect overnight. He simply needs to continue showing growth. At the same time, Kyler Murray continues making positive impressions around the building. Blake Cashman praised Murray's engagement with teammates and described him as highly involved. That's exactly what coaches want to see from a veteran newcomer. So while Addison remains focused on football rather than politics, the reality is simple. The quarterback decision will eventually impact everyone in this offense, and every practice seems to provide another clue about where things might be heading. Now we get to the story that's generating some of the strongest reactions across Vikings Nation. Because what began as a competition is increasingly being viewed as something much more significant, a test of the franchise's future direction. According to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, people around the league believe Kyler Murray currently has the inside track in the battle against J. McCarthy. That's not an official decision. It's not a final verdict, but it is notable. And for McCarthy, it's not the kind of buzz you want floating around before camp truly heats up. Fowler reported that Minnesota is treating this as a legitimate competition and is willing to let it continue through training camp if necessary. Yet the perception around the league appears to favor Murray. Why? Experience matters, production matters, presence matters. Murray enters this competition as a former #1 overall pick, a former Pro Bowler, and a quarterback who has seen virtually every challenge the NFL can throw at him. Fowler even described feedback from inside the organization suggesting Murray carries an alpha presence both in meetings and on the field. That's difficult for a young quarterback to overcome, especially one whose career has already been interrupted by injuries and inconsistency. McCarthy has shown flashes. Nobody denies that. His late-season performances last year provided reasons for optimism. But the numbers also reveal areas that need improvement. More interceptions than touchdowns isn't the standard anybody wants. Missing significant time early in his career didn't help either. The pressure is real because this isn't just about winning a starting job. It's about validating the organization's long-term belief in him. And when a new general manager is in the building, every evaluation feels a little colder. Still, there's another side to this story. Fowler also reported that McCarthy has improved. Coaches and observers have noticed progress in his ability to throw with touch, vary his delivery, and expand his overall passing arsenal. That's encouraging because one of the common criticisms of his game centered around relying too heavily on raw velocity. Growth matters. Development matters. Confidence matters too, especially when the room can feel like it's tilting towards someone else. And perhaps most importantly, quarterback competitions are rarely decided in June. The next several months will tell us far more than off-season reports ever could. Murray may be leading today. McCarthy may be closing the gap tomorrow. One injury, one preseason performance, one stretch of training camp practices can shift everything. And that's what makes this battle so captivating. The future of the position remains unwritten. As I look at all four of these stories together, I keep coming back to one thought. This team is standing at a crossroads. New leadership in the front office, important veterans facing pivotal moments, a healthier offensive line trying to reestablish itself, and a quarterback competition that could shape the next several years of Vikings football. That's why this offseason feels different. The answers aren't here yet. They're coming. And when they arrive, they could tell us what kind of team this really is. Let me know which storyline you're watching most closely, because every fan is going to feel this differently. Through every high, every heartbreak, and every unforgettable Sunday, we'll keep standing behind the purple and gold. Skol Vikings, let's go!